I will never forget the day I found out that Sarah had cheated on me. It wasn't with some fitness instructor or barista, but with a pilot like me, Mark. What's even more ironic is that I denounced her infidelity on the flight announcement in front of hundreds of passengers. Sarah and I grew up in Los Angeles, and we have known each other since we were young. Sarah is 2 years younger than me, and we started dating in high school and got married after graduating from college. Sarah had always dreamed of becoming a flight attendant, while my dream was to become a pilot. We both worked hard to achieve our dreams, and we both did. Sarah joined United Airlines and became a flight attendant on international flights, while I joined Delta Airlines and became a pilot on Boeing 777s, flying trans-Pacific routes. To outsiders, we were the perfect couple. Handsome guy, beautiful girl, enviable careers, high incomes, and a good quality of life. We lived in a big house in the suburbs of Los Angeles and had a golden retriever called Cloud. We traveled a lot together, to the beaches of Hawaii and the castles of Europe. Our friends were always envious of the loving and sweet photos we posted on social media. But only those in a marriage know the true taste of it. Sarah and I have a seemingly glamorous marriage from the outside, but inside it is already riddled with problems. After Sarah became a flight attendant, our lives started to diverge. She flew international long-haul routes, often for more than 10 hours or even several days. Although my flight route was also long, at least I could fly back the same day. We spent less and less time together, and there was less and less communication. At first, we would video chat every night to share about our work and lives. But gradually, the video chats became routine, with fewer and fewer topics, and eventually they simply became simple goodnight greetings. What made me feel even more uneasy was that Sarah began to become increasingly mysterious. Her phone was always set with a password, and I couldn't even touch it. In the past, she would share some interesting things about her work with me, but now she wouldn't say a word about work. When I asked her what was wrong, she always said that work was too tiring and she didn't want to talk about it. I began to suspect that she was having an affair. Once this thought took hold, it grew like a weed in my heart. I started to secretly check her phone, but each time I was blocked by the password. I started to keep an eye on her whereabouts again, but she was flying around, and I was at a loss. Until one day, I accidentally found a photo of Sarah and a man in a bar. In the photo, Sarah was beaming, while the man was affectionately putting his arm around her shoulders. My heart sank, and an ominous feeling came over me. I began to investigate who the man was. Through some friends in the aviation circle, I quickly found out who he was. His name was Mark, and he was also a pilot, working for the same airline as Sarah. What shocked me even more was that Mark was actually someone I knew, and we had even attended airline training together before. I couldn't believe my eyes. My best friend had betrayed me and slept with my wife. Anger and humiliation washed over me like a tidal wave, threatening to overwhelm me. I felt dizzy, my breathing was labored, and a huge stone weighed on my chest, suffocating me. I grabbed the glass on the table and slammed it to the ground, sending shards of glass flying, just like my broken heart. I decided to expose their dirty secret. I was going to make Sarah pay. I began to formulate my revenge plan. I carefully studied Sarah's recent flight plans and discovered that she was taking the next flight from Los Angeles to London. And I, coincidentally, was also flying the same route, just the next day. I decided to do it on Sarah's flight. I wanted the whole world to know that my wife was an unfaithful slut. I contacted some friends at the airline and, through some means, managed to get my name added to the pilot list for Sarah's flight. Of course, I told everyone that I was covering for a sick colleague. The airline didn't think twice about it. After all, it's not uncommon for pilots to swap shifts at the last minute. On the day of the flight, I made sure to dress up. I put on my flight suit, put on my sunglasses, and checked myself out in the mirror to make sure I looked calm and professional. I wanted Sarah to see that even after she betrayed me, I was still a good pilot and a dignified man. When I walked into the cockpit, the co-pilot was already there. I greeted him briefly and then started the pre-flight preparations. My heart was beating fast and my palms were slightly sweating. I knew that a storm was about to come. Soon, Sarah arrived too. She was wearing a blue flight attendant uniform and had done her face up with delicate makeup. She looked as beautiful and charming as ever. When she walked into the cockpit and saw me, she froze for a moment and her smile froze too. "John? Why are you here?" she asked in surprise, with a hint of panic in her voice. "Why, are you surprised to see me?" I looked at her coldly, with a mocking smile on the corner of my mouth. Sarah seemed to realize something. Her face turned pale and her lips trembled slightly. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice trembling. "What do I want?" "You'll find out soon enough." I ignored her and walked straight to the microphone, took a deep breath, and then pressed the broadcast button. "Hello, everyone. My name is Captain John Smith, and I'm your captain for today's flight. First of all, on behalf of the entire crew, I'd like to welcome you all on board. I'm very honored to be flying this flight today. But before we take off, I'd like to share something personal with you. It's about my marriage, my dignity, and your right to know." As soon as I finished speaking, there was an instant silence in the cabin. Everyone perked up, waiting curiously for what I would say next. Sarah stood next to me, her face pale and her body trembling slightly. She tried to stop me, but it was already too late. My wife, Sarah Smith, is the flight attendant on this flight. She is a very beautiful woman and a very good flight attendant. We have been married for 10 years, and to outsiders we appear to be a very happy couple. But today, I discovered a fact that shocked and distressed me greatly. My wife, she has cheated on me, and the person she cheated with is someone I know, a pilot named Mark. My voice spread throughout the cabin via the public address system, clearly reaching every passenger's ears. I could imagine that at this moment, there must be an uproar in the cabin, everyone stunned by my words. Sarah could no longer hold back and rushed up to me to try to snatch the microphone from my hands, but I pushed her away. "Sarah, you don't need to argue. I have conclusive evidence. I know that you and Mark have been secretly seeing each other for a long time, behind my back. Do you think I don't know anything? You're wrong. I have long since seen through your affair, but I just didn't want to believe it, didn't want to admit it." My voice grew more and more agitated, and my tone more and more angry. I felt my chest fill with rage, almost burning my entire body. "Sarah, you unfaithful woman. How could you do this to me? I treated you so well, loved you so much. Why did you betray me? Why did you get involved with Mark? Am I that disgusting to you?" My voice echoed around the cabin, full of anger, sadness, and a hint of desperation. I felt my dignity being crushed underfoot by Sarah, being mercilessly crushed. There was silence in the cabin. Everyone was shocked by my words. No one spoke, no one moved, as if time had come to a standstill. I could see that some passengers had sympathetic expressions on their faces, while others had gloating expressions. Sarah stood there, tears streaming down her face, looking at me with fear and despair in her eyes. "John, let me explain, it's not what you think," she said, choking back her sobs, her voice so weak it was almost inaudible. "Explain? What's there to explain? The facts are right in front of you, what's there to argue about? Sarah, I really misjudged you. I never thought you were this kind of woman, you really disappoint me." I yelled, slammed the microphone onto the floor, and turned to leave the cockpit. I couldn't bear to stay there any longer. I couldn't face Sarah's hypocritical face any longer. I walked into the passenger cabin, where all the passengers looked at me with curiosity and inquisitiveness. Ignoring their stares, I walked straight up to Sarah, grabbed her arm, and pulled her up. "Sarah, come with me," I shouted angrily, and then dragged her towards the back of the cabin. The passengers stood up one after the other and gathered around us, watching like a monkey show. I felt humiliated, but I could no longer care. I wanted Sarah to admit her mistake in front of everyone, and I wanted her to be punished. I dragged Sarah to an empty seat at the back of the cabin and then pushed her hard into the seat. Sarah fell into her seat, covering her face and crying out in grief. Sarah, what do you have to say for yourself? What excuse can you offer now? I glared at her and asked in a cold voice. Sarah looked up at me through tear-filled eyes, her expression full of fear and remorse. John, I was wrong. I really was wrong. Please forgive me. I will never do it again. She begged, crying. Forgive you? Sarah, do you really think I'll forgive you? You betrayed me. You betrayed our marriage. Do you really think I'll forgive you so easily? You're so naive. I sneered, my tone full of mockery and disdain. I know I've made a mistake. I know I've hurt you, but I really didn't mean to. I just. Sarah rambled on, incoherently, but she knew for herself how feeble her explanation was. Just what? Just lonely? Or just don't find me as attractive as Mark? Sarah, can you tell me what you really think? Why did you betray me? I pressed, my tone tinged with pain and incomprehension. Sarah fell silent, her head bowed, tears falling unceasingly, but unable to say a word. Can't speak? Sarah, you really disappoint me. I always thought you were a kind and honest woman, but I never imagined you were such a fickle slut. You really disgust me. I angrily shouted, my tone becoming more and more vicious. My words were like knives, stabbing Sarah's heart. She cried even harder, and her body began to tremble violently. John, please stop. I know I was wrong. I know I hurt you. I'm willing to bear all the consequences. Please forgive me this time. Sarah cried out in desperation. Bear all the consequences? Sarah, do you think an apology can make up for the harm you've done to me? Do you think I'll let you off lightly? You're so naive, I sneered, my tone full of the pleasure of revenge. So what do you want? What do you want me to do to forgive you? Sarah asked desperately, her tone tinged with pleading. What do I want? I want to destroy your reputation. I want to take everything from you. I want you to regret this for the rest of your life. Sarah, this is the price you pay for betraying me. I said between clenched teeth, my tone full of hatred. My words completely despaired Sarah. She stopped crying, looked up at me with vacant eyes, as if she had already lost her soul. John, do you really have to be so cruel? After all, we were once husband and wife. Don't you have any feelings for me? She asked hoarsely, her tone carrying a hint of last hope. Feelings? Sarah, how dare you mention feelings to me? When you betrayed me, did you ever think about our feelings? When you cheated on me with Mark, did you ever consider how I felt? You unfaithful and treacherous woman, you don't deserve to talk to me about feelings. I shouted, my tone full of disgust and contempt. Sarah was completely silent. She knew that no matter what she said, she could not win me back. She knew that our marriage was completely over. I looked at Sarah's desperate expression and felt a sense of satisfaction. This is what happens when you betray me. This is the price of an unfaithful woman. I turned and left the cabin, returning to the cockpit. My co-pilot had been watching me silently, his eyes full of mixed emotions. Captain, are you all right? He asked cautiously. Yes, everything is fine, I said coldly, then sat back in the pilot's seat and started restarting the plane. The plane taxied slowly, then accelerated and soared into the sky. I piloted the plane towards London, towards an uncertain future. Sarah and I didn't speak a word to each other during the rest of the flight. We were like two strangers, enduring each other's presence in the same confined space. I knew that our marriage was over. I knew that Sarah and I would never be able to go back to the way things were. As soon as we arrived in London, I submitted my resignation to the airline. I didn't want to work for the same company as Sarah anymore, and I didn't want to see her disgusting face every day. The airline quickly approved my resignation. They also knew about Sarah and me, and perhaps they felt that it would be best for everyone if we were separated. After resigning, I left Los Angeles, moved to a new city, and started a new life. I sold our shared house and also sold Cloud. I wanted to completely say goodbye to the past and start again. The divorce went smoothly, and Sarah did not raise any objections. Perhaps she also knew that she was in the wrong and had no right to argue with me. After the divorce, Sarah also left the airline. I heard that she went to another airline and continued to work as a flight attendant. As for Mark, I stopped following his news. I didn't want to have anything to do with these two people anymore. Time is a good healer. As time passed, the pain in my heart gradually subsided. But I will never forget the moment when Sarah betrayed me, and I will never forget the scene on the flight when I angrily rebuked her. This failed marriage has taught me a profound lesson. I have come to understand that marriage is not the grave of love, but a litmus test of human nature. It is in marriage that we can truly see a person's true colors. Sarah's infidelity left me utterly disillusioned with human nature. I used to believe that love was unchanging and that marriage was for life. But Sarah's betrayal taught me that love can change, that marriage can break down, and that human nature cannot withstand the test of time. I began to lose faith in love and marriage. I became cynical, cold, and unfeeling. I shut myself away, avoiding relationships and emotional attachments. I was afraid of being hurt again, of being betrayed. I became obsessed with work, using it to numb myself. I worked day and night, keeping myself busy so that I had no time to think about Sarah or the sadness. I became a workaholic, a cold machine. I lost the joy of life and hope for the future. Until one day, I met Emily. Emily is a beautiful young girl, 10 years younger than me. She is a waitress in a cafe, with a cheerful personality, warm and generous, always with a sunny smile on her face. Emily's appearance was like a ray of sunshine that brightened up my life. She made me feel the beauty of life again and rekindled my hope for love. At first, I didn't feel anything special about Emily, just that she was cute and friendly. But as our relationship deepened, I gradually became attracted to her sunshine-like warmth and enthusiasm. Emily was like a little sun, warming my cold heart. She made me learn to smile again and to love again. I began to try to get close to Emily and to start accepting love again. Although I still had some lingering doubts and was afraid of being hurt again, I knew that I couldn't keep living in the past and that I had to look to the future. Emily is a very nice girl, gentle and considerate, always understanding and tolerant of my shortcomings. I feel very relaxed, comfortable, and happy with her. I gradually fell in love with Emily and gradually got over the past. I began to believe in love and marriage again. A year later, I proposed to Emily. Emily happily accepted my proposal. We had a grand wedding and invited all our friends and family. At the wedding, I looked at Emily in her wedding dress and my heart was full of happiness and gratitude. I knew that I had finally found my own happiness. I knew that I could finally say goodbye to the past. Sarah's story was now in the past. I would never forget the hurt she had caused me, but I chose to forgive her, let go of my hatred, and start again. Life is short. Why make things difficult for yourself? Let the past be the past. What matters is to cherish the present and grasp the future. Emily and I started a happy married life. We travel together, cook together, watch movies together, go for walks together, living a simple but warm life. Although it is simple, this is exactly the happiness I want. I no longer pursue a passionate love, nor do I yearn for earth-shattering romance. I just want a simple happiness, a love that lasts. Emily is the happiness I want, the love I want. I believe that in the days to come, Emily and I will work together to weather the storms of life and create a bright future of our own. Thank you for watching my story. If you like it, please subscribe to my channel, where I will be posting more exciting stories regularly.